Dance like no one's watching, Dave Danger Anderson hummed to himself as he pirouetted gracefully through zero gravity, especially when there's definitely someone watching. His repair kit orbited lazily beside him as he moonwalked his way across the exterior of Harmony Station, humanity's first joint species space station and current source of his entertainment. The malfunctioning airlock would have been a 15-minute fix if he'd approached it normally, but where was the fun in that? Next up on Dave's greatest hits of the 21st century, he announced to no one in particular through his suit speakers, "We've got a real classic coming up." The opening beats of Uptown Funk echoed across the hull, the bass somehow even more powerful in the vacuum of space. A series of rapid-fire color changes from the nearest viewport caught his attention. The Z-Cytherian diplomatic delegation was attempting to communicate their displeasure through their chromatophore-based language. Dave gave them his best zero-G spin and shot finger guns their way. "Oh, hey there, your most honorable and exceptionally tentacular excellencies," Dave called out cheerfully, knowing full well his suit speakers were broadcasting on all standard frequencies. "Don't mind me, just getting my groove on while I fix this sticky airlock mechanism. You know what they say, if you're not having fun at work, you're not doing it right." Through the viewport, First Deputy Assistant Cultural Attaché to the Secondary Diplomatic Oversight Committee, ZXLLBRX, changed from a professional shade of diplomatic mauve to an impressive array of frustrated oranges and reds. All 7 of their eyes narrowed simultaneously as they adjusted their ceremonial sash of office. Dave took this as his cue to break out the robot, his movements precise despite the bulky maintenance suit. The repair kit continued its lazy orbit around him, occasionally passing between the Zygetherians and their holovid documentation drone. "Sir," a tired voice crackled through his comm, "this is Station Control. The Zygetherian delegation has filed their 4th formal complaint about your unauthorized performance art." "Can't talk now, Control," Dave replied, catching a wrench with a particularly smooth backflip. "I'm in the middle of my signature move. I call it the Zero-G Zeus. Watch this." The move in question involved a complex series of spins while simultaneously manipulating the manual override controls of the airlock. It was, Dave had to admit, absolutely unnecessary, but the look of horror on all 14 of the Zygetherian faces as he tumbled past their viewport made it entirely worth it. "Besides," he continued, "I'll have you know this is a legitimate maintenance technique. Studies show that happy workers are productive workers, and nothing makes me happier than dancing." The airlock's diagnostic panel lit up green just as Dave transitioned into what he liked to call his spacewalk of shame, a moonwalk variation he'd perfected specifically for celebrating successful repairs. "Maintenance log, stardate whatever," he narrated, still moonwalking. "Airlock 7 is back in business, baby. This is Dave Danger Anderson, signing off with a, oh, hold up, this is my jam." The opening notes of Stayin' Alive began pumping through his speakers. The ZXtherian delegation's color patterns became increasingly erratic as Dave started incorporating disco moves into his zero-G routine. "Sir," Control's voice returned, somehow even more tired than before, "the Zygetherian Second Deputy Assistant Cultural Attaché is requesting that you, and I quote, cease this mockery of their most solemn inspection immediately." Dave caught his reflection in the viewport, his maintenance suit gleaming in the starlight as he struck a pose. Behind him, the Zygetherian documentation drone was capturing every moment of his performance, its lens unable to avoid him no matter how its operator maneuvered. "Control," he replied, launching into an impressive display of zero-G breakdancing. "You can tell the Second Deputy Assistant Cultural Attaché that I'm just getting warmed up. After all," he paused for dramatic effect, "the space station's not the only thing that needs maintaining. Sometimes you gotta maintain that groove." The collective color change of the entire Z-Cytherian delegation to unprecedented shades of puce suggested they didn't quite share his philosophy on workplace morale. The Second Deputy Assistant Cultural Attaché Zerog had endured many trials during their distinguished diplomatic career. They'd survived the great paperwork crisis of the Betelgeuse bureaucracy. They'd maintained their composure through the infamous 3-day formal greeting ceremony of the Regelian High Council. They'd even managed to file their taxes on time during the calendar standardization riots. But this was too much. "And I will always love you." Dave's voice crackled through their diplomatic suite speakers as he spun past the viewport, for what had to be the dozenth time, now attempting something he called the worm in zero gravity. Smurf's chromatic scales cycled through 17 different shades of apoplectic rage. Their ceremonial tentacles twisted themselves into what their species recognized as the ancient knot of supreme irritation. Most esteemed colleagues, Smurf burbled through their translator, gripping their ceremonial peace staff with 3 increasingly twitchy appendages. Surely our sacred protocols allow for some form of response to this continued disruption? First Deputy Assistant Cultural Attaché ZXLLBRX had already stress-molted twice during the inspection. They consulted their ceremonial datapad wearily. Section 47, subsection Delta 9 of the Diplomatic Conduct Guidelines does mention a clause about maintaining the dignity of official proceedings through proportional corrective measures. Dave chose that exact moment to launch into what he announced as his signature zero-G interpretive dance tribute to early human dubstep. The peace staff hummed to life in Smurf's tentacles. "I believe," they said with dangerous calm, their scales settling into the formal patterns of righteously justified action, "this situation calls for some diplomatic feedback." The weapon disguised as a ceremonial staff to get through security, but actually a cutting-edge energy projector capable of vaporizing small moons, aligned perfectly with Dave's gyrating form. Smurf took careful aim, their species' natural ability to calculate trajectories in 3-dimensional space, finally being put to proper use. "For the dignity of the Galactic Diplomatic Corps," they muttered and fired. The searing bolt of pure energy, technically classified as a friendship beam in all official documentation, streaked across space toward its target. Dave, in the middle of demonstrating what he called the sprinkler, noticed it at the last possible second. "Oh, snap," he managed before the blast struck his maintenance suit square in the chest. The subsequent series of events would later be analyzed by 17 different species' top scientists, generating no fewer than 42 competing theories and 3 new religions. Dave's maintenance suit, prototype model XG7000, had been designed to protect against solar radiation using an experimental energy dispersal coating. The manufacturers had extensively tested it against solar flares, cosmic rays, and that one intern who kept microwaving fish in the break room. They had not, however, tested it against weaponized diplomatic frustration. The energy from the peace staff hit the coating and transformed. Where there should have been molecular disintegration, there was instead an explosion of prismatic light. Dave's suit began to glow, refracting the energy in patterns that bore a suspicious resemblance to a disco ball. Oh, this is new," Dave observed as his body began to vibrate in perfect rhythm with Stayin' Alive, which was, ironically, still playing through his suit's speakers. "Is anyone else feeling unusually groovy, or is it just me?" The nearby maintenance drones suddenly began moving in sync with his movements. A passing satellite adjusted its orbit to match his rhythm. Even the station's artificial gravity briefly pulsed in time with the beat. "The human!" Smurf's translator shrieked, their scales rapidly cycling through colors previously thought theoretically impossible. It's... "Getting down with my bad self," Dave suggested helpfully, now trailing sparks of electromagnetic energy as he moonwalked across the hull. Each step left glowing footprints that pulsed in time with the music. Weaponizing interpretive dance, the entire Zixtherian delegation screamed in unified horror, their tentacles tangling into their species' ritual pose of, "Oh no, what have we done?" Through the viewport, they watched in mounting horror as Dave, now essentially a human disco ball of electromagnetic energy, began to breakdance. Each move sent waves of groovy energy rippling through nearby spacetime, causing small objects to orbit him in perfect choreography. "Control," First Deputy Assistant Cultural Attaché ZXLBRX said weakly into their communicator. "We're going to need to convene an emergency session of the Galactic Security Council, and perhaps some dance instructors." The emergency session of the Galactic Security Council was not going well. "Order, order," bellowed High Councillor Kathax, banging their ceremonial gavel, which was actually just a regular gavel, but no one had ever had the heart to tell them. "The Council will have order while we review this disturbing footage for the 47th time." On the massive holoscreen, Dave's glowing form spun through space once again, trailing sparks of electromagnetic energy as he flawlessly executed what he dubbed the cosmic cabbage patch. 3 different species representatives fainted at the sight. The humans have clearly been developing this technology in secret, accused Ambassador Yer of the silicon consciousness, their crystalline form vibrating with indignation. Our deep space sensors have detected suspicious rhythmic activity from their planet for centuries. They call it music festivals. Earth's chief diplomatic officer Sandra Chen massaged her temples. For the last time, we haven't weaponized dancing. This was a complete accident caused by an unexpected interaction between lies, shrieked Representative Zudzit of the Hive Concordat, their antennae curling in agitation. We have proof. Observe this historical document our intelligence services uncovered. The holoscreen switched to a grainy video of humans performing the Macarena. As you can see, Zudzit continued triumphantly, they've been training their population in synchronized movement patterns for generations. Meanwhile, several sectors away, Dave was discovering new and interesting aspects of his condition. His maintenance rounds had become significantly more eventful since the incident. He mused, watching a row of cleaning robots perform a perfect kick line behind him as he danced down the corridor. That's new. The station's AI had started playing background music whenever he entered a room. The coffee machines brewed in perfect rhythm with his movements. And just yesterday, he'd accidentally reprogrammed the entire waste management system by doing the hustle. Mr. Anderson, his supervisor's hologram flickered to life, looking harassed. We need to talk about the incident in Docking Bay 7. Oh, you mean the thing with the Arcturian trader's ship? Dave executed a flawless spin, causing the hologram to briefly dissolve into a shower of sparkles. Total accident. How was I supposed to know doing the robot would engage their hyperdrive? The ship jumped to light speed while still attached to the docking clamps. Yeah, but you have to admit it made a pretty sweet light show. And hey, they discovered a new spatial anomaly. They're naming it the Boogie Wormhole. Back at the Galactic Security Council, things had descended into chaos. The footage of the incident had gone viral across the galaxy's information networks, spawning countless conspiracy theories and at least 7 new dance trends. My species has analyzed the footage frame by frame, announced the Quantum Archbishop of the Silicon Consciousness. We believe the humans have discovered a way to harness what our scientists are calling the fundamental groove force of the universe. On the fringes of civilized space, alien conspiracy theorists were having a field day. Wake up, sheeple, ranted YouTube X personality XKX_truthseeker_XX, their eye stalks bulging with excitement. The humans have been preparing us for this. What do you think their Saturday night fever was really about? It was a weapons test. The viral spread of the incident footage was causing unexpected side effects. Reports began flooding in from across the galaxy of various species attempting to replicate Dave's defense techniques. The Regelian High Council had to be temporarily suspended after a majority of representatives got stuck attempting to do the YMCA. Breaking news, announced GNN Galactic News Network. Another outbreak of what experts are calling disco fever has been reported in the Carina Nebula cluster. Local authorities advise citizens to avoid any rhythmic movement and to report suspicious outbreaks of spontaneous choreography. Meanwhile, Dave had been called in to help with an emergency repair on a visiting diplomatic vessel. He managed to fix the problem in record time, mostly because his funk-enhanced presence caused all the ship's systems to automatically optimize themselves to the beat of "Get Down Tonight." Good news, he reported to station control. The quantum manifolds are realigned, the plasma conduits are clear, and I taught the ship's AI to do a mean moonwalk. Although, he paused, watching as the ship's external lights began pulsing in a familiar pattern. We might want to warn them about the possibility of spontaneous disco ball manifestation. The situation reached a new level of crisis when Dave's influence began spreading beyond simple technology. The Hive Concordat reported that entire colonies were breaking out in synchronized dancing. The Silicon Consciousness discovered that their crystalline matrices had begun vibrating in time to stay alive. Even the notoriously stoic energy beings of Tau Ceti were observed forming conga lines. Earth's diplomatic corps was working overtime trying to contain the situation. They'd issued 17 official statements, held 43 emergency press conferences, and gone through enough antacids to classify as a small planetary body. Look, Sandra Chen explained to the Council for what felt like the millionth time, we understand your concerns, but I assure you, Earth has not been secretly developing dance-based weapons technology. We're just as surprised by this as you are. More surprised, actually, since we have to deal with Dave's incident reports. She pulled up the latest one. Accidental activation of funk-based quantum entanglement in cafeteria. Recommend immediate distribution of platform shoes and warning signs about spontaneous outbreaks of the electric slide. The council chamber erupted in fresh panic. "You mean there could be more of them?" shrieked several representatives simultaneously. No, that's not what Sandra began, but was interrupted by an urgent message from station control. Chief Chen," the officer's voice was strained, "we've got a situation. Anderson was trying to fix a broken replicator, and well, he started doing something called the worm, and now all the food dispensers are only producing disco fries. Also, 3 passing ships have reported their navigation systems are now plotting courses based on dance steps." Sandra looked at the terrified faces of the Galactic Security Council, then back at her message screen, which was now somehow displaying a perfect replay of John Travolta's moves from Saturday Night Fever. "Right," she said with the calm of someone who has transcended normal levels of stress. "I don't suppose anyone here knows how to neutralize weaponized funk? Deep in the uncharted regions of the galaxy, aboard a ship so stealthy it technically didn't exist. Its tax forms were filed under hypothetical vessel. The Military Confederation of Concerned Species was having a crisis meeting. The humans have gone too far," Admiral Putung declared, their bioluminescent spots flashing in agitation. "First they released that mimetic weapon known as the electric slide, and now this." The gathered military leaders watched the now infamous footage of Dave once again. Several of them instinctively began tapping their appendages to the beat before catching themselves. "We must act decisively," buzzed General NX of the Hive Defense Force. "Our top scientists report that exposure to human dance music has caused 37% of our drones to develop rhythm." Rhythm! Do you have any idea how this has affected our synchronized flying formations? From the shadows at the back of the room, a figure moved. The movement was impossibly graceful, every motion precise and purposeful. Commander Vizit of the Kinetic Communication Collective stepped into the light, their crystalline exoskeleton refracting the room's illumination in mesmerizing patterns. The commander's species had evolved to communicate entirely through interpretive dance, making them the galaxy's most lethal choreographers. Every gesture was a sentence, every pose a paragraph of meaning. Vizit performed a series of fluid movements that translated roughly to, "I will capture this human and unlock the secrets of their groove-based weapon systems, or I will die trying." They added a backflip for emphasis. Meanwhile, back on Harmony Station, Earth's top scientists had made a disturbing discovery. "The energy conversion, it's evolving," Dr. Sarah Martinez explained to the Emergency Scientific Committee. She gestured to a holoscreen showing Dave's latest maintenance walk, where passing crew members had started spontaneously joining his zero-G conga line. "As you can see, the effect is becoming contagious. We've detected trace amounts of what we're calling funk particles spreading through human populations. Just yesterday, the entire physics department broke out in synchronized dancing while studying the phenomenon." "Is there any way to contain it?" asked Director Chen, watching as the holoscreen showed a group of serious-looking astronomers suddenly break into a flawless performance of Thriller. "Contain it? We can barely measure it. The energy readings keep changing every time we run tests, because the particles apparently just want to have fun." Their discussion was interrupted by an alert from station security. An unregistered ship had just requested emergency docking clearance. The vessel's design was unlike anything in their database, its hull seeming to ripple and flow like a dancer in motion. Commander Vizit had arrived. Dave was in the middle of his usual maintenance routine, now with 100% more spontaneous musical numbers, when he first encountered the commander. He rounded a corner, moonwalking backward while checking pressure seals, and nearly collided with a tall, crystalline figure performing what appeared to be an elaborate ballet. "Oh, hey there," Dave called out cheerfully. "Nice moves, though you might want to work on your spacing. Nearly took out my toolkit with that grand jeté." Vizit executed a complex series of movements that meant, "Surrender now, human weapon. In the name of galactic security, you will submit to immediate study and containment." "Whoa, interpretive dance, haven't seen that style in ages," Dave exclaimed, completely misinterpreting the threat display as an invitation to dance. His funk-enhanced suit began to pulse with electromagnetic energy in response to Vizit's movements. "Here, let me show you how we did it back in dance school." What followed was possibly the galaxy's first interpretive dance-off/interrogation. While Vizit performed increasingly aggressive movement phrases demanding military secrets, Dave responded with enthusiastic displays of the running man, the sprinkler, and what he called his signature zero-G breakdancing finale. "Your encrypted dance-based communications cannot fool me," Vizit's movements declared. They launched into a series of precise acrobatic maneuvers that, in their species language, detailed exactly how many battleships were currently targeting the station. "Amazing!" Dave called out, his suit trailing sparks of groovy energy as he matched the commander move for move. "I've never seen anyone pick up the robot so quickly. Though you might want to loosen up a bit, you're looking a little stiff there, buddy." The situation reached its peak when Dave's funk-enhanced presence began affecting Vizit's crystalline structure. The commander's threats became increasingly less threatening as their movements started syncing involuntarily with Boogie Wonderland. "Warning, warning," Station Control's AI announced, its voice somehow acquiring a disco reverb. "Unknown energy readings approaching critical levels of funk. Recommend immediate evacuation of all personnel not prepared to get down with their bad selves." As klaxons blared in perfect 4/4 time, Dr. Martinez burst onto the scene with her research team. "Dave, stop! The funk particles are reaching critical mass. If you and the commander keep this up, you could trigger a chain reaction of—" But it was too late. The combined power of Dave's electromagnetic groove and Vizit's professional-grade dance moves had created a feedback loop. A wave of pure funk erupted from their impromptu dance-off, spreading through the station at light speed. The last thing Dr. Martinez saw before the wave hit was Dave teaching the galaxy's deadliest interpretive dancer how to do the hustle. The invasion fleet materialized from hyperspace in perfect formation, their weapons already charged and targeting systems locked on Harmony Station. 5,000 ships, each one bristling with enough firepower to vaporize a small moon, arranged in what was accidentally a pretty good imitation of a synchronized swimming routine. Inside the station, alarms were blaring the rhythm section to "Stayin' Alive." "We're being hailed," announced Station Control. "The Military Confederation is demanding our immediate surrender and—" The officer paused, squinting at their screen. "The release of all our dance-based superweapons into their custody." Commander Vizit, who had somehow ended up joining Dave's impromptu dance class instead of capturing him, performed a series of movements that translated to, "My superiors are not going to be happy about this." Dave, still glowing like a supernova at a disco, was staring out the viewport with an unusual expression of concentration. After nearly causing 3 interstellar incidents that morning by accidentally teaching the station's waste management robots to break dance, he'd finally started to understand what was really happening. "It's not the suit," he said suddenly, watching his reflection in the viewport, as electromagnetic energy pulsed through his body in perfect rhythm. "It never was. The suit just helped me tap into something that was already there." Dr. Martinez looked up from her instruments, which had started displaying their readings in musical notation. "What do you mean?" "Think about it. What's the one thing every species in the galaxy has in common, even the ones trying to kill us right now? An increasingly inexplicable attraction to Earth's pop music," suggested Sandra Chen, who had just finished dealing with a diplomatic incident involving the entire Rigelian High Council getting stuck in a conga line. "Rhythm!" Dave exclaimed, his excitement causing nearby computers to start playing synthesizer riffs. "Everything in the universe moves in patterns. Planets orbit in rhythm, atoms dance, even quantum particles do the wave. The suit didn't convert energy into dance, it converted dance into universal harmony." On his screens, Dr. Martinez's equations began rearranging themselves into choreographic notation. "My God," she whispered. "He's right. The fundamental forces holding reality together, they're all following the same beat." The invasion fleet's commander chose that moment to issue their ultimatum: "Surrender your groove-based weapons technology or face immediate destruction." Dave looked at the fleet, then at his dancing-enhanced maintenance suit, then back at the fleet. A grin spread across his face that would have made physics itself nervous if physics hadn't been too busy keeping up with the rhythm. "You know what?" he said, reaching for his suit's sound system controls. "I think it's time for my finale." "Dave," Sandra Chen said warily, recognizing his expression, "what are you planning?" "I'm going to save the galaxy the only way I know how," with the biggest dance-off in history. He paused for dramatic effect. Hit it. The opening beats of Don't Stop Believin' blasted from every speaker on the station. Dave's suit began to pulse with unprecedented levels of groove-based energy as he launched into the performance of his life. The effect was immediate and impossible to resist. The invasion fleet's targeting systems began moving in time with the music. Weapon crystals refracted light in prismatic patterns that matched the beat. Through their view screens, the military confederation's leaders watched in horror as their crews started swaying involuntarily. "The human is attempting to weaponize harmonic resonance," one of their scientists shouted, their tentacles already tapping out the rhythm. "He's synchronizing with the underlying quantum choreography of spacetime." Dave's dance moves were creating waves of pure groove that rippled through space itself, each step, every gesture, synchronized with the fundamental forces holding reality together. The fleet's ships began moving in patterns that looked suspiciously like a synchronized dance routine. Commander Zerog, understanding what Dave was attempting, made their choice. Their crystalline form glowing with shared rhythm, they joined the dance, adding their species-precise movements to the growing resonance cascade. The combined effect of their performance, amplified by Dave's funk-enhanced suit and synchronized with the universe's own rhythm, created a chain reaction. Energy waves of pure harmony swept through the fleet, the station and the surrounding space, and suddenly, impossibly, everything was dancing. 5,000 warships performed a perfect choreographed sequence. Their weapon systems fired in patterns that created spectacular light shows. The station's entire population, regardless of species, found themselves caught up in the galaxy's biggest flash mob. Even the military confederation's leaders, watching from their secret base, couldn't resist. Admiral Pateng was the first to break, their bioluminescent spots flashing in perfect time as they launched into an enthusiastic version of the Macarena. "We appear to be experiencing a Class 5 groove event," Dr. Martinez announced, while unconsciously performing a flawless moonwalk across her lab. Reality itself is synchronizing with the beat. Dave, now floating in the center of it all like a disco-powered supernova, looked out at the dance party he'd accidentally started. "You know," he said to no one in particular, "I think this might be my best maintenance job yet." 3 months after the Great Groove Event, as historians were already calling it, the newly reorganized Galactic Dance Council convened its first official session. "The results are undeniable," Dr. Martinez announced to the assembled representatives, her presentation slides moving in perfect rhythm to a laid-back jazz beat. "What we originally thought was a weapon system is actually the key to understanding the universe itself. The fundamental forces, gravity, electromagnetism, the strong and weak nuclear forces, they're all just different dance moves in the cosmic choreography." The gathered diplomats watched in amazement as her equations resolved themselves into dance steps, finally unifying quantum mechanics and general relativity through the power of groove. "Furthermore," she continued, "we've confirmed that the maintenance suit's energy dispersal coating can be modified to enhance any species' natural rhythm. The diplomatic corps has already approved it as standard issue for all interstellar functions." In the front row, the Cytherian delegation's scales had shifted to embarrassed patterns of purple and gold. Second Deputy Assistant Cultural Attaché Zekek Marf rose to address the council, their ceremonial peace staff now permanently converted into a disco ball. "We wish to formally apologize for our hasty actions," they announced, tentacles twisted into the ceremonial knot of deep regret. "In attempting to suppress what we thought was a weapon, we accidentally helped humanity unlock the secrets of universal harmony." Also, they added, their chromatophores flushing slightly, the humans' moves were, as they say, pretty fresh. Sandra Chen, newly appointed head of the Galactic Dance Council, smiled diplomatically. "Apology accepted. And may I say, your species' natural color-changing abilities add a wonderful visual element to the electric slide." The council chambers erupted in applause as Dave was called forward to receive his new credentials. He moonwalked to the podium, his standard-issue maintenance suit replaced with a sleek diplomatic model that sparkled with electromagnetic energy. "Dave Anderson," Sandra announced, "in recognition of your accidental but revolutionary discovery and your outstanding contributions to interspecies harmony, I hereby appoint you as Earth's first ambassador of groove." Dave struck a pose that caused several nearby quantum particles to spontaneously start dancing. "Cool," he said, But can I still do maintenance work on the side? Those airlocks aren't going to fix themselves, you know, though they might dance themselves into alignment now. 6 months later, in Harmony Station's newly constructed Zero-G Dance Academy, Ambassador Anderson was holding his regular interspecies dance class. Commander Visit, now Earth's strongest ally in promoting dance-based diplomacy, was demonstrating a routine that simultaneously expressed a peace treaty and a pretty solid pop-and-lock routine. "Remember," Dave called out as he floated past a group of Rigelian diplomats attempting to master the worm in zero gravity, "it's not about perfection, it's about finding your own rhythm in the universal dance." A passing maintenance drone joined the class's choreography, its warning lights pulsing in time with the music. Through the viewport, ships from a dozen species moved in graceful orbital patterns that just happened to match the beat of Uptown Funk. Dave paused to admire the scene, his suit trailing sparks of groove-based energy that rippled through space-time itself. "You know," he said to no one in particular, "maybe this is what they meant by universal harmony all along. In perfect synchronization, every being in the room, organic, mechanical, and even a few quantum fluctuations, struck a pose as the music faded out. The universe, as always, kept dancing."